How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good. I'm gonna get you guys the material. Oops, don't want to end the meeting. Just kidding. Joseph, Emily. Got you, Diana, Casey, sure. We'll give people one more minute and then we will start our accountability check-in. I've missed you the last couple days. I haven't gotten blessed with my presence of accountability. Here's Mitch. All right, we'll go ahead and start with our accountability. So we'll just check in where you guys are at with your contacts. If you can also let me know if you do not have an Ignite binder printed, but would like one. They are going to be arriving. We did a new order. They were out of stock for a little bit. So we did a new order and they are going to be arriving shortly. So just trying to tally like who wants one in each location so we can make sure we get them there. Mitch, you want to get started?
Yeah. Hey, Mara, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I've been the last few days and over the weekend I was super sick, so kind of just been taking it easy, but I do have some coffee appointments and this week and just trying to grow my contacts that way and hopefully some future open houses, and that's really about it right this second.
All right. And do you need an Ignite binder?
Yes, I will take one, please.
And you're in Medford, correct?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Sometimes Southern Oregon, I lose track of which office is closest. Okay, Alexander, what about you?
Hey, good, going well. Sorry, I'm driving right now.
You're all good.
Yeah, things are going good. Working on that one investor client that I told you about last week.
Great.
He's kind of like flip-flopping what he wants, so I'm just trying to appease him and help him out. Besides that, just getting marketing out, flyers out, getting the word out, trying to get more leads, more clients.
Excellent. And do you need an Ignite binder? Will you fill one out?
Yeah, are those complimentary or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
And
take one.
you're in Medford as well, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Zinnia. I know you're in Medford. For you.
And yes, I will take an Ignite. I came down to Medford today, so I'm also going to be driving partly. I came to the AI class and I totally recommend it.
Awesome. Good. We're doing that one here in Eugene next month. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, she's awesome. She had a lot of good tips. I learned a lot about how to apply it. So I'm really excited to really get going with it.
That's super exciting. Good. I'm glad you got a lot of value for that. Okay, excellent. Diana?
I don't know how to respond to that question. I know it's a basic question, but all I've been doing so far is watching these trainings.
Okay.
You know, I
Yeah,
don't contact anyone, and that's not, a statement of my lack of motivation. I just, I don't know what to do.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, it definitely is a good blend. We definitely want the education, obviously, and the foundation to be laid, but you do want to definitely mix in some contacts with that as well, because that's just that income producing part of it that's going to get that business rolling. So trying to time block a little bit in your days each day to make contacts definitely be good. And I think I sent you some goal setting recordings as well that to go over, so that will kind of clarify some of those activities and stuff too.
Goal setting, I'm sorry, goal setting.
The recordings from them.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, I'll check the email should have gone out this morning, I believe, with that
Okay.
for you today. So I'll make sure it's sent.
Okay.
Emily James.
Hello. I went to my code of ethics training yesterday, and then I did the Fairhaven training as well. I actually am really excited. I have a good friend's brother that's selling his home in Sandy, and he's also purchasing a new home with his new partner. So two transactions in the next couple months that will come to me. Known them for 15 years, so I'm pretty confident that that's going to come my way soon. And other than that, word of mouth, friends and family has just been working out really well for me. I have a couple leads that I'm pursuing, and then today I am downloading the Oregon Real Estate Forms Library, paying for the annual subscription for that, and getting it all synced up to Command. So I'm
Excellent.
almost there to where I can start sitting down with people.
Perfect. And then in Sunset Corridor, do you want to pick up an Ignite binder as well?
Yes, please. I can come
Okay.
by anytime.
Yep. Okay, great. I will tell you once they're there. Don't go yet, but I will confirm.
Okay.
And then Emily, I know you want one, Nordquist, I know you want one sent to you. How else is how are your listings going and everything?
Good. We just did a price reduction on that. I hate to say nightmare HOA, but that one that I'm learning a lot on.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that gets any traction. Potentially a buyer. Emily sent my way closer to me than her, so we're kind of waiting to see if they're interested. I'm doing my headshots of my daughter's getting her senior pictures done tonight, which is sad, but I'm going to get a few headshots while she's at it. So then I can use that for some advertising. Can't remember. I did an open house Sunday for the second time, same place, that one I emailed you about, and didn't get anybody in there. So we'll see.
Did anyone come the second time?
No.
Oh, well, don't do it a third. That's it.
Well, I was kind of hoping that she would just give it to me because she's in Sunset Quarter, but she lives in Portland. So I thought, well, maybe if she gets tired of it, she'll send it my way. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, no, I doubt it's just you, but yeah, that's a bummer. Okay, excellent. Joe, how are you doing? Getting back in the groove of things?
Yeah, back from vacation. I came back pretty ill, but that didn't really affect my real estate business. So I set up my Facebook account finally. I've been meeting with a lot of my construction clients, even though I'm not really taking work, but I'm looking at the work, finding them referrals, telling them I'm in real estate. That seems to be working pretty well. Done the MLS training, and I'm really exploring that and how to do the save searches and stuff like that for people I know. I have a neighbor with a listing that's not selling, and he came and talked to me yesterday, and I didn't really say much, but I have my son over there pulling weeds, and you know, I don't know what that is, but I was happy that someone asked my advice about something real estate. I made an offer on an investment property, which lingered for a couple days and just got rejected last night. But that was a good learning experience for me.
But yeah, it's kind of nice to go through the swing of it.
Yes. So that's everything I got. So
Awesome. Well, great
Yeah.
job. Casey, how are you?
I'm okay. Sorry. It's a total
Okay.
home work from home day. So, um, So I am currently doing a search for a referral I received from a Windermere agent out of Portland area. And I don't need a night, but I have one.
Yep.
I think that's pretty much it. Just I've got a couple people that I've been working with for a while. One of them is super specific on what she's wanting and knows she's gonna have to hang. We've been working together for a good 6 months or so. I met her almost 2 years ago at an open house I held. She came through. Of course, I gave her my card. She was like, I'm just kind of seeing what's out there. And she actually called me. So that's about where I sit.
Awesome. Great. Good job. And Sherry.
Hello. I ordered my business card, so I should be picking them up today. I went and got signed up with RMLS. So I was thinking of going in after this to get a little personalized one-on-one on how to look things up. Because I did talk to neighbors who are fixing up their house and they said they want to try and sell it on their own, but I don't know how to talk to them about listing if it doesn't work out. I need some guidance on that, I guess.
Okay.
But
Yeah, we can
I kind of wanted to do some investigation on, CMAs and whatever.
Awesome. Yeah. And I can send you the recording too for the pricing to sell, which goes over the CMA staff as well.
Okay.
Can I get that as well, Mara?
Yes. Who was that?
That was Emily James.
Yep. Perfect. Yep. Yes. Excellent. Yes, I'll get that over to you guys. And then
Oh, and I'll take an Ignite book.
okay, perfect. Yes, I will let you know once they're at the office. They're all coming here, so you'll get it first, pretty much. Okay, did I get everyone? I got everyone. Okay, and then so yes, there is like our Wisdom Wednesday office hours at 4 o'clock today, which is on a Zoom. I sent an email that you all should have received at like 10:59 this morning that has that Zoom link. Today, we are doing a special like guest presentation from one of our power partners, Donnie from Envoy, and he's going to talk a lot about working with first-time home buyers. So that should be some really great information. I'll be on in the beginning to get that up and started. And then Diana, if you do need to talk about anything outside of that, since that topic is a little bit set today, just give me a call. When you get some free time, like in between 3 and 4, I'll be free too. Okay, cool. So I will get those recordings out to you. And then Erin, I believe you're on, right? Hey, okay, great. So I'm going to introduce our instructor for today, Aaron. He was a productivity coach with us for, gosh, I want to say it was about 4 years, right? Seems like a lifetime. 3 years, 4 years, right in there.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Yep. Aaron did begin his career as a real estate transaction coordinator and assistant to a top producer in Oregon, helping to close 65 plus transactions in his first year. He got his real estate license in 2017 and began his own small team at Keller Williams the same year. In 2021, he joined Accelerate PC team. See, that was 4 years, about 4 years, yeah. As a coach, and in 2022 got his principal broker license. Since then, Aaron has been blessed to educate and coach new agents as they start their own business, and is now really focusing in on his team with his partner. So you'll see Nick and Aaron West around. We call them kind of our little cheerleaders in the office because they are always helping with our culture committee events and anything fun happening in the office. And it's wonderful having their wealth of knowledge here. So you are in very good hands. This is kind of his side of things, making and receiving offers and talking, communicating with agents. So you are all set to go, and I'll let him take it away.
Yeah, Mara's so nice to give me the fun classes that I really like to teach. So I'm excited to be here. Okay, so just bear with me while I get my screen share going, and we will just dive right in one moment. Okay, so I am hoping that everyone can see the material for today. Is that correct? So a couple things before we get started. Um, I tend to get a little bit excited about some of these things, and so I may just get carried away and I'm talking and I'm not noticing that hands are coming up or folks are putting things in the chat. If that is the case, I would rather you just kind of unmute yourself, cut me off, and let's address your question or your concern right then and there. No need to wait until the end. You won't offend me at all if you cut me off because I can get carried away. So no worries there. Also, yeah, today is a really fun one. Oh, wait. This is not the screen that I wanted to share. Hold on a second. So can everybody see the thing that has the graph that says the offer process? Is that what everyone is seeing?
I don't see a graph. It's like page 1 or 2. It looks
Okay,
like
yeah. I shared the wrong thing. All right, 1 second. Sorry. This one. Now can everyone see that graph? Okay, great. That's what I wanted to share. Okay, let's make this a little bit bigger for me. And I guess I can just hit play on this. There we go. Continue to share, yes. All right, great. So this is just such a fun topic because everything that we do in real estate, in my mind and in many folks' mind, is a numbers game. So if you picture your whole business as this funnel, and I'm sure that this has been talked about at length throughout these Ignite classes, and if you're even just joining these Ignite classes, when we circle back around to the beginning next time, you'll get this information as well. So, but if we think about everything we do in real estate as like this funnel, right? So at the top of that funnel is basically everyone in the U.S., folks that might be referred to you from across the country, folks that are your neighbors, your friends, your family. And then below that are maybe folks that you have met at an open house and have kind of engaged with you on a real estate level, or you met at a trade show. You've gotten their information and you're sending them emails, or they're on a search or something like that. And then below them are folks that maybe a seller that you're in talks with to get their house listed, or a buyer that you've signed a buyer broker agreement with and you're about to start showing. And every time you descend in this funnel, this group of people gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But the great thing about that is as the funnel gets smaller and smaller and smaller, you get your percentage chance of closing a home sale and getting a paycheck increases a lot, especially once you get to this part where you are writing an offer on behalf of your buyer. Gosh, you're getting really close to being able to close a house, make a paycheck. And then once you're in escrow, I mean, we don't count our chickens before they're hatched, but man, once you're in escrow and you've got that offer accepted, or you've got that listing and your seller has accepted an offer, now we're really, really close, and we just have to just get that sale across the finish line. And so that's why this is so fun to talk about, because I know in my business, when I'm doing these activities, I'm getting really close to getting paid, and making someone's dreams come true as far as selling their home and accomplishing their goals, or maybe buying their first home, and really that's what this is all about. So okay, let me go back a slide or two here because I do want to cover, and this is covered in most Ignite classes, is the Keller Williams belief system, because there's so much in here that is great stuff to run your businesses by. But what we'll talk about a lot today, and what I find myself saying to clients when I teach these classes and this and that, is win-win. Everything that I do, I'm trying to create win-win situations. I'm not a predatory real estate agent where I'm like, you know what, I want my client to win and the other person to lose. Oftentimes, if that's your attitude, you're going to have a lot of contentious relationships, deals falling apart because folks aren't stupid. So, you might think that, we can get one over on the other side, but chances are that's not going to work because they're represented as well, and that agent is doing the best for their client, and situations like that tend to fall apart. What we're looking for, and part of our Keller Williams belief system, is win-win or no deal. And pretty universally, when I'm out there working with my clients or my co-op agents, if I'm on the listing side, the buyer's agent, or vice versa, a win-win situation is something 99% of people can get behind. And there's a couple other great things in here too, obviously, but yeah, the Y4C2Ts are just something that are kind of always worth reviewing. And so I just wanted to start out with that at the top, especially with win-win or no deal, because a lot of what we're going to be talking about today kind of goes straight back to that. So moving on. So here's today's agenda: the offer process, preparing the offer, writing the offer, presenting the offer. And when it comes to presenting the offer, we're going to look at it from both, if you're a buyer's agent, or if you're a listing agent presenting the offer to your sellers. Receive and respond, what are the options there? And then, of course, just to recap, questions at the end. Like I said, don't hesitate to cut me off if you have a question in the moment, or if you prefer, we'll have time at the end and we can discuss as well. I'm also going to go through some of my own materials throughout this, so feel free to unmute yourselves to this question. Just correct me if I'm wrong. Yesterday's class, or a class really recently, was how to write an offer, correct?
I think that was last week.
Last week, how to write an offer. So probably Mara or someone took you like line by line through the sales agreement and kind of what's important there, and then how to, the nuts and bolts of writing an offer, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we did go through it line by line. I
Okay.
forget who was the instructor that day, but
And if you haven't taken that class yet, or maybe you just joined Ignite, today or whatever, that's totally fine. I just bring that up to say, so I am going to pull up an offer and talk about it a little bit, but it's not going to be like the deep dive of that class. If you haven't taken that class and you want to watch the recording, just email Mara and she'd be happy to send you like the line by line, here's how to write an offer. Tomorrow I will be back on again. It's going to be really different than this. It won't be an Ignite presentation, kind of, which is more like the theory side of everything, but I will be going through the vacant land sales agreement, the condo sales agreement, and the new construction sales agreement, more or less line by line. And so if you want to join for that tomorrow, if you missed the last one, or even if you didn't, feel free. I will be on again to kind of do that. Anyways, I will pull up an offer just as an example to kind of go through when you're presenting these offers, when you're explaining them to your buyers or to your sellers if they're considering accepting one, some of the things that you're going to want to be looking at that are going to be important to highlight so that they know what they're getting into. This is a great quote. And like I said, kind of goes right back to the heart of what I was saying a moment ago with our belief system. I like to think of sales as the ability to gracefully persuade, not manipulate, a person or persons into a win-win situation. And this isn't just with our offers either. Sometimes your seller will have accepted that offer, and then they get a repair addendum over from the buyer being like, we want you to fix A, B, and C. And this exact situation is kind of, you as the agent, it's our job to kind of have our emotions out of it, and you as the agent, find the repair addendum perfectly reasonable. Say the person came in at full price and they're paying top dollar for this house, and upon inspection they discovered, oh, there's some few things that aren't right. The buyer's not asking for the world, and you think it's a pretty reasonable repair addendum, but the seller it's their job to be emotional, sort of not ours, and you're potentially trying to gracefully persuade them into a win-win situation where everybody kind of feels like they're getting what they want out of this. So yeah, I think that's a great quote right there. Okay, the offer process. Let me pull open my notes here as well. Okay. So the buyer makes the offer. Seller responds in one of three ways: counter, accept, or reject. Obviously, if they counter, we're still negotiating. If they accept the offer, that's when we begin that process that we are in contract and we're moving towards closing. And then obviously, if they reject the offer, you as the buyer's agent are going to want to contact the listing agent and be like, you know, where did we kind of off on these terms? Are there terms that we could rewrite this offer and that your seller may accept? Just because they have rejected it doesn't mean all hope is lost. You can certainly rewrite that offer, especially with more information from that listing side, and come back at that seller. So, like I said, you know, don't assume no means no on a rejection necessarily. There's a couple situations where that might not be the case, and we'll kind of get into that in a bit. But I had a multiple offer situation recently where a listing got 9 offers, and yeah, the 9th place offer, that was a hard no. You know, we had 8 offers that were superior. So to them, yeah, no meant no, but that's not the case, especially in this market where homes are sitting for much longer. Average days on market, what? I mean, a month and a half, 2 months. No doesn't necessarily mean no in this market. I mean, the power is definitely shifting towards the buyer. So some of my notes here. What emotions do buyers and sellers have at this stage of the process? Possible answers: excitement, trepidation, worry, anxiety, caution, impatience. When emotions run hot for others, it's our job to remain professional and put together. It's not our purchase or sale. We don't get to be emotional. We serve them by being calm, reassuring, in control, and most importantly, by communicating everything to our clients in a timely manner. Remember to put all your offers into opportunities in Command, and I will open up Command here in a little bit and show you how to do that. Command does integrate directly with DocuSign, which is our signing service that all of us here that are part of the Experience Brokerage Network use. I think in other parts of the country it might be some other service, but here we use DocuSign. Okay, anything else that I want to say about the offer process? Any questions so far come to mind? Really, I think the big takeaway from here is that, yeah, emotions are running high at this point from both buyer and seller when that offer is kind of coming in. And so, like I said, remain professional, remain calm, and just objectivity, really, I think would be the word. Okay, so next moving on to preparing an offer. Okay, so this is a great checklist. So Mara at the top, I know, was saying, hey, if you don't have one of these books, let me know so we can get you this book. This checklist here is something that you can use every single time you're preparing an offer. And sure, I mean, once you've done it a few times, it'll kind of become old hat, but you know, even on my team now, I mean, I've done it a million times. I still live by checklists because you don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to drop the ball on this thing here or this thing here. So I would definitely create your own checklists and your own systems within your own business, just to make sure that you're always like 100%. I really think it's really important to take pride in making as few mistakes as possible. I mean, we live in a very litigious society, and you don't want to be caught, you know, not having all your I's dotted and T's crossed. It's very important in this business to make sure that we're like 100% accurate with everything we do. So when preparing to write an offer, first thing you want to do is ensure the property is still available. And you think, okay, well, that goes without saying, that's silly. Not so much though. I mean, in a world where a lot of our clients are looking at homes on Zillow or whatever other sites might be out there, they're not in the know like we are. And so the amount of times that a client has sent me a property like, hey, I really want to go see this and write an offer on it, and it's a currently pending property, as in they're under contract right now and we can't go see it because they've already accepted an offer, like a lot of times. So if a client sends you an address that they're being like, oh, I'm really excited about this one, let's go see it, I think I want to write an offer, yeah, definitely check to make sure it actually isn't already pending. Build rapport with the listing agent. This is really important. So even when you call that listing agent or text them or whatever you do to book that showing, there's a chance that your client might want to write an offer on that. You are already needing to build rapport with that listing agent from the moment you go to book that showing. most folks aren't like this, but some folks, maybe you're in a bad mood that day or whatever, and say, you go to book that showing with the listing agent, ask them, anything important I should know about this property or this or that, and you maybe come across in not the greatest light to them. You don't want your being in a bad mood one day to affect your client's chances of getting their offer accepted down the road because that agent doesn't want to work with you. And like I said, that isn't applied to most folks. Most folks totally get that. But at the same time, we have a fiduciary duty to our clients, and you need to be building rapport with the other agent from the first moment that you talk to them, text them, whatever it may be. Inquire about activity. So, this is kind of a wide-ranging thing here, but if it's a brand new listing to the market and your client is extraordinarily excited about it, it just got listed yesterday, maybe you're inquiring about activity is, have you received any other offers? And if they're like, yes, we already have other offers, then you want to be like, okay, oh wow, is there an offer deadline? What's important to your seller if my client decides they want to write? Or there's kind of the flip side of that, where if it's been on the market for 3 months, you can ask about why do you think the property isn't selling, or things about, things like that. Have you had a lot of showings recently? That kind of thing. Just kind of going into what I just said, inquire about other offers on the property, or why did they fall through? So sometimes you will see properties that are back on the market and it'll say maybe no fault to the seller or something like this. And so certainly a phone call to that agent, if you're about to write an offer on a property that was in escrow but is now back on the market, that absolutely justifies a call to the listing agent to say, hey, why did the last one fall through? Just to get some more information on what you and your client are about to get into with this property. Was it something with inspections? Who knows?
I have a question.
Yes.
How are the listing agents usually pretty good about responding to your questions, or do they take offense to it when, like on number 4, if you're asking about past offers, are they honest or do they not like to share that information?
I mean, I think it depends on what you're asking. So obviously they can't really give away confidential information, and we're certainly under the instructions of our seller, what they sort of authorized us to say and not say. What I would say, so in the last case that I gave, where say something's been on the market for 4 months, maybe 2 months ago it went into escrow, but then fell out, and now it's been on the market another 45 days. That agent's going to want to sell that house. So if you're calling them and like say you're post showing, and your client really liked the house, they're considering writing an offer. If I'm that other agent on the listing side, I'm going to want to tell you whatever you need to know to get an offer over to my seller. Not, like I said, not giving away confidential information or anything like that, but most certainly, at that point, if it's on the market for 4 months and I've already fallen out of escrow once, my seller's probably desperate to sell it at this point. And so, yeah, I'm going to be pretty candid about what kind of terms we're looking for to get that household. And a lot of folks are going to be that way as well. I mean, that's why we're doing this, to accomplish our buyers and sellers goals. And in the case when you're listing a property for sale, yeah, we want to get an offer in. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, and I would think if it fell through because of financial, like if you had a house that was in escrow and fell out of escrow because the buyers had something go wonky, that doesn't reflect the seller whatsoever. But if something was found on some inspection, I mean, I can see where a listing agent wouldn't be as forthcoming about that maybe, or.
Yeah, so it's interesting on inspection. So if you have knowledge, you can't pretend like you don't have that knowledge. So if something did come up on inspection and you were like, hey, well, send us the inspection report, send us the repair addendum, and you now have that knowledge that that thing is wrong, you're like bound to be honest about it.
And that's why the seller doesn't usually request the inspection or never requests the inspection report, right?
I mean, that's a tough one to answer because I would rather just have the inspection report. So I will try and make this really, really short. So a couple deals ago, we were in escrow on one, and they had a previous escrow that had fallen out for whatever reason. They couldn't come to terms on these repairs. My buyers were really pretty not picky. They just wanted the house. They weren't really even feeling asking for anything. And they were like, gosh, I mean, if we could just not pay for our own inspection and just have the previous inspection report. I think we even wrote into the offer that we weren't going to ask for anything but health and safety issues, something like that. And so we weren't about to be nitpicky on anything. We just wanted to save them the $500 to not have an inspection. Well, anyways, the listing agent was just, they absolutely would not ask for this inspection report from the buyer because that was just their policy. They didn't want the knowledge. Fine. That deal fell out for us too, and then we went and found something else. I feel like had they just done what we asked, we probably would have just closed on that house instead of moving on to something else. Current listing I'm working on right now. We got the repair addendum over and I presented it to the seller, what the repair requests were from the buyer, and they just were like, couldn't wrap their head around why in the world the buyer would be asking for these things. It doesn't matter what, it just, the seller was emotional. It's their home that they've been in for 15 years and they just couldn't da 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 da. And so I was like, will you please send me the inspection report? Because I felt like it would be helpful to have that visual aid to go through with my seller to maybe take some of the emotion out of it and be like, here's what the inspector found. Here's where I think the buyers are kind of coming from because they just could not wrap their head around why in the world this would be being asked for. And so it's going to be different every time. It's just going to be different every time. So I would say as a rule of thumb, if you can avoid having to ask for the inspection report as a best practice, I think you're totally right. If you don't need to have the knowledge, then don't have the knowledge because then once you have it, you're bound to share it. But that's just not always going to be the case.
And the buyers are the ones that request the inspection report, right?
So the buyers will do their due diligence. They'll have their inspection.
Okay.
They cannot send it to you on the listing side unless you request it. And once you request it, they have to send it to you.
Okay. That was the class that I missed that I haven't listened to yet. So I couldn't remember.
You
It
guys,
was talked about in a different class and I thought that's what it was, but I couldn't remember.
So everyone here, when you're on the buy side, once your buyers do that inspection, do not forward that inspection to the listing side. That's a huge violation of the contract. You cannot do it. But if they ask you for it, you must send it.
Do you have to document it or do something that says that they asked for it? Or is it just the email? Like if they called you, would you prefer to say, can you email that request so you have your documentation noted somewhere?
That's a smart best practice. Yes. Okay. I think it would be
I
better.
apologize.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that one more time?
So if all of us here say we're all buyer's agents, our buyers have the inspection on the property and we're considering what repairs we want to do. We cannot just unilaterally send that inspection report over to the listing side. Unless they ask for it, then we must send it over to the listing side.
Okay, thank you.
When would be, sorry, I'm totally going on top. When would a seller request that inspection?
Typically, like after you sent over your repair addendum. So inspections are done. Your buyer's like, I want them to fix this, 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 and this. You send the repair addendum over to the seller. And then once they get that repair addendum, that's probably when they're going to be like, hey, can you go ahead and send over that inspection report so I can have that to share with my seller as we like review this repair addendum.
Gotcha. Because all they're seeing is the request. They're not seeing the initial why this whatever was wrong. So they're trying to validate what the repairs are being asked of them. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
Am I still screen sharing? Okay,
yes.
Great. Thank you. Let me minimize everyone again. How do I do that? This? No. Let's go back to this. All right, great. So where was I? Oh, okay. Okay, so to number 5, ask questions about seller motivations and needs, especially in a multiple offer situation where you've got a really hot property and your buyer really, really wants this place. Absolutely. Like you can ask questions like, what's important to the seller in an offer? What can we do to make, to put our offer over the top? Excuse me. Like I said, the most typical way you're going to hear this question asked from a buyer's agent to a seller's agent is what's important to the seller. That is a very reasonable question to ask. And you never know what the listing agent might say to you. So on one recently, I've got a client that's moving out of the country. And one thing that was really, really important to them was that we have a quicker close, but then they got to occupy until they were basically ready to leave. They wanted to stay in the home until they left the country, but they wanted the property to close so that they could have the money to take care of some things and then still occupy for a time and then leave. And that was like a really important thing. For other folks, that's not going to be important at all. Maybe they've already left and the house is sitting vacant. They don't care about any of that. And so asking those questions about what's important to the seller is very important. Number 6, this is not as important. In fact, I'm not sure what way they would receive the offer other than via email, but asking the listing agent how they want to receive the offer. 99.9% of the time, we're going to email that offer. Obtaining your buyer's pre-approval from lender. This, I think, is very important. Your buyer's offer is going to stand out if, when you send the offer over to the listing side, their pre-approval letter from their lender is attached to it already. In the offer, it provides to say, oh, my buyer will send over their pre-approval letter within 3 days of acceptance, or it's attached to the offer. And it just makes the offer look a lot more attractive if it's just already attached. Then the listing agent can go ahead and call the lender and make sure that the pre-approval letter is good to go. And just everybody feels a lot better from the get-go. So I would certainly recommend doing number 7. Review MLS and tax records. Certainly. So you can always have Mara pull county records, or whoever your escrow person is, pull the county records. And then review those MLS records as well, just as far as verifying, all the home facts and what they're advertising is what you saw on the ground. The tax records are important to a degree because, you might be writing the offer and it has one seller listed, but then you pull the tax records and there's like actually 4 people on the title, and, that might be important down the road. And you might just that would just be a call to the listing agent and be like, hey, I see in the listing that you've put that there's one seller, but I pulled the tax records and it has 4 people on title. What's going on there? And they might be like, oh yeah, it's an estate, so-and-so has passed and this person's the executor. So yeah, it's just the one seller or whatever. Produce a comparative market analysis. I say competitive market analysis. If you're talking to your client, just excuse me, my dog wants to go outside. Just one moment. If you're talking to your client, I wouldn't say CMA, I wouldn't say competitive market analysis or comparative market analysis. I would just say market analysis. Our clients don't know what any of those other things mean. Even someone I worked with recently who I thought, this is someone who's bought multiple homes and is a good friend of mine. So I talk real estate around them all the time. And I was like, CMA. And they were like, what? And so our clients do not know what that means. Now, I typically, and when I say typically, I pretty much don't do CMAs for properties I'm writing offers on. You certainly can. I feel like when I was newer, buyers pushed me to do it a lot. But now that I'm more seasoned, I never get asked to do it. I'm not sure why that is, but I feel like your buyer clients, when you're newer, for whatever reason, really want you to do a CMA on that property. I don't do it for a few reasons. One, the CMA has already been done. When you're listing a property, that's when you do a CMA for a property. That's how you come up with a price or help your seller come up with a price for the house. That's the listing agent's job to do the CMA, not the buyer's agent. Doesn't mean you can't do one for your buyers. It's not what that means at all. You certainly can. Look at the comps and see, if they're in the ballpark. But one of the reasons that I also don't is there's a couple great resources out there for us to kind of ballpark some prices. Look, the seller's already set the price. So my doing a CMA, it's not going to affect what the seller is asking on the list price. That's already decided. It's out there, it's live. The list price is $449,000. My doing a CMA is not going to affect that in any way. Yeah, is it going to inform my buyer a little bit, whether they're too high, too low, that sort of thing? Sure. But I mean, there's a great site that we all have access to, which is called RPR. It's a benefit that we have through NAR. And so I would definitely recommend that, you all try and dig back through your emails that when you first got your license and NAR started sending you emails and you got your NRDS number. one of those member benefits is RPR, and RPR has a great little pricing system in there. And you can kind of look at whether prices folks are asking for their homes are in the ballpark. You can, and so one thing I'll often do for buyers is I'll look at RPR, I'll look at homes.com, realtor.com, Zillow, and Redfin, and then take all their estimates that all their algorithms are kind of coming up with, do an average of those, and kind of compare that to what the to what the seller is asking for their property. I think that gives us a good ballpark without having to do a whole CMA, or just pull up some comps of some similar ones and just see if they're in the ballpark. But to do a whole CMA for a buyer on every property that they're potentially going to write on, that's not the way I run my business. Let's just say that. And then obtain a seller's disclosure statement and other needed documents. So again, the seller disclosure statement typically, so I will always attach the seller disclosure statement to my listings. So before any buyer even starts writing an offer on it, they can download the seller disclosure and have a look at it. That's just the way I run things. However, not everything is going to be that way. So the way our contracts work is once an offer is accepted, that's when the seller sends the property disclosure statement over to the buyer. Once the offer is accepted, and then the buyer has a 5-day review period. So you can certainly ask for the seller disclosure statement before writing an offer. Sometimes it's available attached to the listing. That's the way I and a lot of other agents do it, but it's not going to be the case every single time. In fact, they don't owe you the disclosure statement until they've accepted an offer. Does that make sense? Any questions about any of the preparing to write an offer? Oh, let me look at my notes and make sure I'm not forgetting anything that Ignite wants me to say.
You said after an offer is made, the buyer requests the seller disclosure statement, and then they have 5 days to review it or 5 days to send it.
So it's a 5-day review period, and you don't have to request it. So
okay,
this is a fun little topic. So the seller's property disclosures, it's like 5 or 6 pages, and it has a ton of check boxes about everything about the property, from like if there's a well or a septic and what kind of condition that's in, to if you have any knowledge about what type of insulation is being used, if the roof has ever leaked, if there's any buried oil tanks on the property, all sorts of stuff. Everything about the property is on this checklist for the seller to fill out. When you go into escrow, ideally, if you're on the listing side, you're going to send the property disclosure statement to those buyers on day 1, because that starts that 5-day clock ticking. The buyer's agent, I mean, if you're a smart buyer's agent, you're not going to request the property disclosures at all. At least I don't, because as long as those property disclosures aren't sent to me, that clock hasn't started ticking. Meaning, if they wait up until a week before close to finally send me the property disclosures, and then I finally can get it over to my buyer, that 5-day window they have to look over those property disclosures and object to something on it doesn't start until they have sent it to me at that very late hour. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
I have a question about that. So if they give you the disclosure before they accept your offer, the clock is not started, right? It starts at acceptance.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so I attach mine to my listing, but that doesn't mean that when I accept an offer that I still don't have to send it to start that clock. I do.
Okay.
The fact that it's attached to the listing means nothing. Yeah.
Okay.
I only do it to just be open and transparent, so that, in negotiations further on, that if something does come up, that from our side, we can kind of be like, yeah, but you had this information. And now you're making a stink. This was all out in the open. You know what I mean?
And when you say you attach it to the listing, what format is that? Like through RMLS?
Yes, in the RMLS. So what you'll do is part of your listing appointment is have the seller fill out the property disclosure. And then when they're done, you'll scan it in at the office. And then when you're putting your listing into the RMLS, there's a portion of that where you can upload documents. And you can upload it
like towards the very end, right?
Yeah. And you'll just attach the property disclosures.
So their actual form that they fill out, you just upload that.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And I think that's a good best practice. Any other questions about the prepare to write an offer as I review the Ignite notes here?
I had one about the market analysis. Like if you have a buyer that's looking at distressed or sort of rehab or investment properties, do you do a little more legwork to help them determine value, or do you just like try to leave that entirely on the buyer?
Well, so like I said, I just try and take steps to avoid doing the full CMA process because, like I said, I feel like that's when the seller has kind of put the price on their home, they're working with a listing agent who it was part of their job taking that listing to already have done a CMA and help them come up with price. So I will vet out the price through various different avenues that I have to do so. Maybe even like pull up some comps, hopefully to find something similar and see where those are priced without like doing the whole process of creating the whole CMA for them. Because like I said, that's kind of like, I feel like that is the listing agent's job. However, so the one thing I want to say specific to your question is I think the more distressed something is, the harder it's going to be to find comparables for that. And so, you know, it might be really tough to even come up with a good CMA. The more unique a property is, the tougher it's going to be for you to find good comparables and come up with an accurate CMA. And so, yeah, I would just, like I said, do the best you can. If they're really thinking the value is not there and they're like trying to come up with something else, then yeah, look for comps. Go into the RMLS search or whatever MLS you're a part of and put in the criteria for that property. So if it's you know, a 3-bedroom, 1-bath on an acre, put in those criteria and see what else is out there. See what else is sold in the last year, and then go through the images of the properties that you're looking at for those comparables. And if it's like, you know, the place that they're looking at buying is a total dump, and the comp that you're looking at actually is in really good shape, that's not a good comparable. So throw that one out. Go to the next one. Oh, here we go. This is more comparable. It's pretty run down. It needs a lot of work. It's 3 bedrooms, 1 bath on an acre. So is mine. Built in the 50s. So is mine. And it needs similar improvements. And they sold it 6 months ago for 220,000. I feel like this is a good comp. Great. Show that one to your buyer and be like, here's one I found that sold 6 months ago for 220. I think that's pretty similar to this. What do you know, something like that. Is that fair?
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so it's important to ask questions of the listing agent to discover what's important to the seller so that the buyer's agent can write the offer which would meet their needs. Find out their time frame and motivation for moving. Ask how the agent would like to receive the offer via email, DocuSign, all as one document, separate documents. Okay, see, that's fair. So I did kind of glaze over that a little bit. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but yes, some agents would prefer that when you like export that offer and send it to them, that you don't have like sales agreement, addendum, contingent right to purchase addendum, blah, 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 all in separate PDFs, that you actually combine all those PDFs. So that is fair. I would prefer them all separate because when we have to upload these things to Command, they're all uploaded as separate documents. So honestly, I would never ask a listing agent that question, to be honest. They're getting separate documents from me. I don't care how they want to see it because that's how I have to upload it into my file.
In DocuSign, I'm sorry, but
No.
in DocuSign, is that like when you do your sale agreement and you do the addendas, is that what it is to create when you create an envelope? Does that combine? Is that what that is? It combines all the documents and then you send that, or is that a different thing?
No, you're basically right. So yeah, it'll kind of, for your client facing part of things, yeah, you'll create the envelope. It will combine the documents to their eyes. And then once they've completed signature, you can choose how you want to download them back to your machine. So you can be like, I want to download them as one document, or I want to download them as separate documents. And DocuSign will give you that choice once they've completed their signature. But to the client, it'll kind of more or less all look like one document.
Okay. Okay.
I just had
And
to
then-
combine a bunch of HOA documents. And so because that was to upload it back into Command. So the person had sent me the HOA documents. There was like 3 sets of bylaws. So in DocuSign, I took those 3 and combined them into one and then uploaded into Command.
Yes.
So I think there's 2 combining that we're both talking about.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. For HOA docs, that's probably the best way to do it, is just combine them all into one to upload it in one shot to Command. Yeah. Remember, by making the listing agent's life easier and making it clear you're an easy person to work with, you make your client's offer look better. And I think that's super, super true. Okay, just a reminder here. Avoid when you call that listing agent to probe what's important to the seller, those sorts of things. Avoid questions that would be a violation of fair housing, and do not give away information that would violate fair housing. And we'll kind of tiptoe into that a little bit more as we continue on. Okay, so now let's get into writing the offer. All right, so again, here's a nice little checklist. Price and terms, seller disclosure. So again, the reason why seller disclosure kind of keeps coming up is this Ignite is written to be used on a national level. Here in Oregon, it just works a little bit differently. I think in California, it probably is a thing where the seller disclosure is probably out there from the get-go and something. But like I said, here in Oregon, the listing agent doesn't need to send the seller disclosure until we've accepted an offer. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, writing an offer, conveyances, earnest money, due diligence inspection period, time for seller acceptance. So what's the deadline on the offer? The financing terms, cash, conventional, VA, buyer pre-approval letter. Is it attached, or are they telling you that they will send you one in a couple days? Like, have they even talked to a lender yet? Are they just thinking that they can buy, or where are they at in that process? What's the closing date? That can often be something that's incredibly important to a seller or not important to it all. Maybe it's an investment property and they just want to sell it. If it takes, if the buyer can close in 3 weeks or 6 weeks, makes no difference to them so long as they get their money. Is there a home warranty a part of the sale agreement? Repair limits. So by repair limits, I kind of tiptoed into that a little bit ago. We had written into an offer that we wouldn't ask for anything that was a repair that was less than $1,000 and didn't have to do with health and safety. So that's what that means by repair limits. Special clauses. I mean, my goodness, there can be just everything under the sun can be written in as a special clause into what we do. There's certain things that you want to stay away from, especially when you're working with a lender. You don't want to include personal property that isn't basically sticking to the appliances, because when you're working with a lender and that gets to underwriting, then suddenly an underwriter wants to know, well, what's the value of this lawnmower that you've written into this contract? Because that's important. So as far as special clauses go, I just want to caution everybody, when it comes to personal property, have your buyers and sellers take care of that on a bill of sale and leave it outside of the real estate transaction. And then, are there any addenda attached? So, gosh, addenda that you might see. One, especially now, is like the contingent right to purchase addendum. So if your buyer has to sell their home to buy the next home, you might be attaching a contingent right to purchase, meaning we're not going to buy this house until I sell my house. And that can be a really big sticking point for folks. Okay. So I'm going to read this all to you. Again, this is designed for a national audience. We here in Oregon have slightly different rules, but I think this is some good risk management stuff. But then as soon as I say this, I'm going to sort of slap it all down and be like, but actually not that. So just bear with me. So remember, do not submit a love letter with your offers. As a listing agent, do not present these to your sellers. Is anybody familiar with love letters? So a love letter, they were extremely popular as we were like in COVID and coming out of COVID, because the market was so crazy competitive. Listings were getting 20, 25, 30 offers on them. And for buyers to try and give their offers an edge, were universally writing love letters or letters to be like, hey, seller, here's why you should sell me my house. And NAR has called them liability letters. So these letters open you and your clients up to fair housing violations. They often contain personal information and reveal characteristics about the buyer that fall into categories such as religion, race, or familial status, all of which are protected categories under housing. They can lead they can lead a seller knowingly or through unconscious bias to unlawfully accept or reject an offer. Stick to the pertinent objective criteria when submitting an offer as a buyer's agent or presenting it as a seller's agent. What are the price and terms? These are what your seller should be using to make the decision. So now that we've talked through the checklist, let's dig into a piece of it and being sure your buyer understands the full contract, its timelines, and ramifications. So love letters. I believe it was about 2 years ago, Oregon legislature said, no love letters, like essentially outlawing love letters in real estate. But then I don't know, it like went to the courts or something. And you're going to want to fact check me on this because it's a little fuzzy at this point. But I think it went to the courts and then a judge was like, no, love letters are fine if you want to do it. Just because you can write a love letter, maybe it's not the best idea, because I mean, based on what I just read there, I do think it does open you up to a liability. You're going to want to make sure that if your buyer is like hell bent on writing a love letter, that we stay really, really clear of fair housing violations. So you're probably going to want to guide them through that process. Maybe put it in a chat GPT and be like, hey, this isn't crossing any lines for fair housing, is it? And then, if you want to send it. Now, there's a lot of agents out there that maybe aren't as up on that process that I just mentioned about how the legislature said one thing, but then the judge was like, nah, something. So you might send a love letter over to a listing agent and they might email you back and be like, love letters are illegal. I had that happen and they were wrong and I was right, but they never presented that love letter because they've been in the business for 35 years and they knew what they were talking better than me, even though they totally didn't. That love letter never got passed along and it just was awkward. So love letters are pretty tricky. Does it open you up to a little probably unneeded liability? Sure. But I will tell you, on a recent listing, we got 9 offers in on it. 5 of the offers came with love letters, and I presented every single one to the seller because the seller wanted them. Any questions about that? Okay. So now let's go to talk through the offer. Okay.
Actually,
yeah,
sorry,
go
I
ahead.
was trying
No
to get unmuted fast enough. I was trying to find, it's probably a silly question, but when you were on the previous slide, the offer, is there a DocuSign form for that? I mean, an OREF form, an offer contract form?
For
So like when you were going through all the things that you needed to put in your offer, is there a form for that we pull up, that we fill out?
So couple examples of what you can do. So let me stop sharing and then just share my whole screen because I got other things that I can show you here. So let me just do my desktop. Okay.
I
So
just wasn't sure if there was a set form for offers. Like,
so there is, yeah.
Okay.
So let's see here. I'll try and go through this quickly. So OREF has an offer summary, which is kind of a neat little document. On the recent listing that got 9 offers, only one of the agents included an offer summary, but I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. So instead of the, what does the sales agreement got into, like 14, 15 pages now? This is a nice little 1-pager of all the terms. Purchase price, earnest deposit, personal property, seller contributions to buyer's agent commission, what's the financing, property inspections. And so it's kind of the whole offer that's like takes up 14, 15 pages, kind of all boiled down and condensed into this one offer summary document. So here's something that you can use. And what's nice is Zip Forms takes all the things from that were pointed in the offer, and it just put all of this in here automatically. I didn't type any of that. It knew from the stuff I put into the offer to put it in here. But because I was
You
What's that?
start that in command.
yes, you
Okay.
start the opportunity in command. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. And then it autofills into this, and then this is your contract.
Yes. So this
Okay.
isn't a contract. This is just an offer summary.
Offer. Okay.
The whole sales agreement is actually like 14 pages, and all the same information is in it. And that sale agreement is what you send over to the listing side as your contract to purchase. But you can certainly include this offer summary to kind of condense it down for them if you wish. But in this multiple offers scenario, I made my own sheet in Excel where I took each offer. So here's all the 9 offers and the buyers' names that we're writing, the purchase price, what their earnest deposit was going to be, what the financing was, what personal property they were asking for, what the inspections were that they were asking for, home warranty, who escrow was going to be held with, occupancy, because that was important to my seller. Was there an appraisal waiver or was it just cash? So these ones where it says NA, those were cash offers, so there was no appraisal. And then here, love letter. So no, yes, no, yes. So 5 of the 9 offers that I had love letters attached. I'm not saying open yourself up to risk and write love letters. I'm just saying that they are still done, even though what I just read to you from the other thing was absolutely do not do it. Well, people do it. And if you're going in on a really hot house and your buyer really, really wants it, and if you think maybe that'll help a little because the seller is open to receiving them, then maybe you help your buyer write a love letter. Like I said, throw it to ChatGPT, make sure it's not violating fair housing, and you should be good to go. Oh, and then also, so in command, so you all like this because we're all doing commands. So, sorry. Actually, no. Just give me a second to find the link because I think you guys will think this is cool. Here we go. Okay, you guys are seeing this, right? Download an offer comparison. I can't see you guys, so yes, no?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, cool. So download an offer comparison. So if you go into command, and then to your active listing, then to offers and commissions, and then you're going to add a new offer. So say you were like in my case with those 9 offers. So you want to see them side by side. So you're going to click add a new offer, and you're going to put in all the terms, the purchase price, cash, finance amount, earnest deposit, contract date, close date, all that other stuff. Then you're going to add another offer, put in the information for that other offer, and then the next, and so on and so forth. Maybe there's only 2, maybe there's 17. I don't know. So once you've put all the offers in there, then you're going to go ahead and click compare offers. And it's going to, now this is clicking through this, so I can't stop this, so bear with me, but see right here, it will come up with this sheet right here where it compiles all that information, and it will make that like Excel sheet that I made myself. Command will just do that for you if you provide it with the information. And that's starting here in your like active listings, here, offers and commissions, and then add offers. And we're supposed to be putting all of our offers into command anyway, so this should be, something that you're kind of already doing as it is.
And then this is something that you could give to your client, or is this just for your own purpose?
Absolutely something that I would give to me. Yeah. Okay, so let me stop this here again and then go back to just sharing this. Okay. So what were we talking about? Yes, talk through the offer. So review the contract. Be sure your buyer understands the contract. Review details like price, the closing date, the inspection period, contingencies, conveyances, etc. Know what is essential in your area. Know standard and common terms for offers in your area, and then avoid rookie mistakes. So by avoid rookie mistakes, let me go over the notes here. Okay, talk through the offer. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through the entire contract as if you were my client, making sure that I'm setting the proper expectations with you. Oh, okay, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to walk you guys through an offer. Not like they did last week where I'm going to like go over every like detail of the thing. It's going to be pretty general, like I would kind of do for a client. I'm going to walk you through the entire contract as if you were my client, making sure that I'm setting the proper expectations with you. So I'm going to pull open a contract here and we'll start at the beginning and work our way through it. We're going to talk about price, closing date, contingencies, and I'll point out areas of the contract that are important and where things might get hung up. And then, to also help avoid mistakes that might scream rookie, like putting in a 30-day inspection period or something like that, and just talk about what is typical that we see. Okay, so let's look at an offer. So I guess I didn't really need to stop my share because now I need to share my whole screen again. Okay, so let's look at one of the ones that we rejected here. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So a couple documents here came across with this sale agreement. There was the sale agreement to occupy because my seller wanted to close but then stay in the property. And then there was an addendum to sale agreement because once we began to get multiple offers, this potential buyer actually upped their offer with an addendum once they learned that there were multiple. And then they did send across their pre-approval letter attached as well, which was nice because then we knew that they were solid with their financing. So the offer. So offer is now 15 pages, and it goes over everything that is going to be a part of this real estate transaction. So the first section here is just who is representing who, this agent representing the buyer, this agent representing the seller, and that's really all that deals with. So here we're talking about what's the property in question, the tax ID, here's the lot block description, and then we're getting down to the financing. So they offered $439,000, depositing this much in earnest money. This was going to be their down payment to the lender, and then this is the amount that they're financing. The personal property that they wanted to include in the purchase, as I advised before, we don't want anything but, well, see, they put the piano on there. See, that's not advisable. Because they're using a lender and this isn't a cash deal. Now, if it's a cash deal, you put whatever personal property you want on there. It doesn't matter. It's cash. There's no lender involved. But there's a chance that down the road, when this gets to underwriting, some underwriter is going to see this and will be like, well, how much is that piano worth? And it's just going to put a wrench in the whole thing, and we just don't want that. So leave that kind of stuff off there when you're using a lender. Just those freestanding kitchen appliances is really all we want to see here. Hot tub is fine. Washer and dryer is fine.
And again, those were things that the seller was including in the sale of the home.
So in the listing, we said that the appliances, but we're not advertising. We didn't advertise the hot tub was included. We didn't advertise the piano was included. That's just something that the buyer decided to put on there. And just as a best practice, just because something is being advertised in the listing as going with the property, you must write it here for it to be included with the property, regardless of what that listing says. It does not matter. You must ask for it in the personal property section.
So as the buyer's agent, when you're writing this up, you're looking at the listing agreement, just re-specifying what they said.
Yes. Yeah, even if they say in the listing the fridge comes with, if you don't put it here, the seller can absolutely remove that fridge.
Gotcha. Okay.
Here, this is something very new to our sales agreements because of the big NAR settlement that happened, I guess, about a year ago now. And that's what are the seller contributions going to be towards the buyer's agent's commission? Is the buyer paying their agent commission, or are we going to ask the seller to pay for the buyer's agent commission? So that gets filled out here. Are they helping out with closing costs? That is also here. Is it an all cash offer? Or are they financing? And if so, conventional, FHA, VA, pre-approval letter. Is it attached or will we provide? And then additional financing provisions. Gosh, because of the different changes to the sales agreement, not much is even really being put here anymore. I just want to see if there's anything important here that if I was a buyer's agent talking to my buyers about an offer or a listing agent presenting this, that I would definitely be calling out here. I'm gonna go back to my multiple offer worksheet. Basically, if it's on here, it's important. Financing, personal property, inspections, home warranty, additional provisions, escrow, close date, occupancy, property condition at possession. We'll get to that. Appraisal, love letter, buyer's agent. Buyer's agent actually really isn't important at all to the seller. It just was helping me keep track of which offer was which because there was 9 of them. Sorry. Okay, the offer. So yeah, financing. Is the pre-approval letter attached or will it be sent within a certain amount of business days? Yeah. Property inspections. So this buyer asked, they wanted to do licensed professional inspections. They wanted a 7-day window to conduct those inspections, and they wanted to be able to conduct potentially radon, mold, sewer scope, tank sweep, and soil sample if recommended by the inspector. So those were written in because they are considered invasive inspections. Okay, so here's a fun one. Home warranties. Home warranty plans may be available to help cover home ownership costs to repair, replace certain home systems and appliances. Will a plan be purchased for the buyer as part of this transaction? Yes or no? And then if yes, what is the plan and cost? And then will the warranty be ordered and paid for by the buyer or the seller? So just going back to my multiple offer worksheet, how many home warranties were asked for? 2. So in one of the offers we got, they said, yes, we want a home warranty, but the buyer's going to buy their own. And then in another offer that we got, they asked for a home warranty that cost $680, which is a little bit on the more spendy side. And they wanted the seller to pay for that home warranty. So that's an important thing that your buyer is going to want to be talking about as you're writing the offer, and your seller is going to need to know when reviewing these offers. Is there a home warranty a part of it? And then here in additional provisions. So in our contracts, line 346, 47, 48 in section 29, this is kind of our catch-all for all sorts of things that the contract doesn't cover or necessarily say. And this buyer said that they wanted to reserve the right to do a walkthrough of the property within 2 business days prior to closing. Perfectly reasonable request, but it was worth noting, and a section that you're always going to want to look at when you're looking at offers for your seller, and a place that you're going to put some kind of catch-all things for your buyers when you're writing offer if there's not another place for that. Who's escrow going to be with? My escrow preference that I put on my listing was Kelly at Western. That's who I always put because we love Kelly. And so in every single offer that we got, the buyer's agent wrote in Kelly. So that's not a hill that I would die on as a buyer's agent. If you're trying to get your buyer's offer accepted on a property and they said that they want, John Smith at ABC Escrow, put John Smith at ABC Escrow. Unless you're working with like a longtime investor that's buying their like 30th property that always uses this escrow person and they must have this escrow person, I would certainly go ahead and write your client's escrow person in there because they're a savvy investor that's who they want. And then I would just kind of follow that up with a call or a text to the listing agent and be like, hey, this is an investor client that I have. They're like buying their 30th property. They always use this escrow person. And so that's why we put that person in there and just kind of give them that explanation. Otherwise, I would just go with what the seller's preference is.
Question.
Yep.
This sale agreement, are you filling this out live with your buyer, or is this information that they've given you and you're doing it just at home by yourself?
I would absolutely not fill this out live with my buyer. So
Okay.
there's a lot of different scenarios that may happen. And it's funny because I feel like when I was new, I got pressure from buyers to be like, hey, so we can go meet at a coffee shop and you're going to fill this out right in front of me, right? And no one's asked me that in years. But for my first year or so, I definitely got asked that several times and had to be like, no. I had one client that did manage to pressure me because they were just so anxious to write it on the back of my car on the outside of the property after the showing. I never should have done that. It was so stressful. It was so awful. Do not do that. The thing that you say, especially even if they're just kind of one of those people that's something, all right, cool. So tell you what, why don't you go get yourself some lunch? I'm going to go back to the office and get started on this offer, and then we can meet in a conference room and we can finish it together. I think that's reasonable. But no, do not, especially for these first couple offers, because there's tech stuff. And especially if someone's looking over your shoulder while you're trying to start the opportunity in command and then pull the documents in and like get the buyer's agent filled out and the addresses and the da. Never mind all the details. It's going to be way too stressful. They don't need to be looking over your shoulder through this process. Absolutely not. Avoid it at all costs. You're going to be able to fill out most of this stuff without them. So as you leave that showing and you're going to head back to the office to get started on this offer, you can leave the purchase price blank until you get together with them, but get a lot of this other stuff filled out ahead of time so that when you meet with them to kind of just put in the couple final details, you just have kind of a couple questions for them. And I really wouldn't even do that. What I would actually do is be like, okay, great. Well, I'm going to head on back to my home office and I'll get started on this offer. And when I've got a lot of the broad strokes in, I'll give you a call and we can fill in the rest and I'll DocuSign it over to you. That's what you do.
Would you ever use that 1-page offer summary form to like, okay, here's the basic information if they were insistent on doing it with you, and then you take that home then to fill out, or you wouldn't even bring that?
I just wouldn't allow it.
Gotcha.
You're the professional. You know the way that this is done, and the way it is done is not meeting your buyer at a coffee shop and like getting your command out and no, do not do it. If it is some folks are not tech savvy. And so some folks might need to sign on paper, especially if we have some very elderly folks that they might not be able to do DocuSign and they don't even have an email address. So in that case, I still would not do it the same. It would still be like, okay, great. Go ahead and go get yourself some lunch or some dinner. I'm going to go back to the office and get this started. And then I would either get everything done that I could, print it out and meet them at their home to finish the rest and fill out what I could, or you could have them, show up to the office an hour or two later to fill in the blanks that you couldn't fill out and then have them wet sign. But yeah, there just is no way that I would allow a client to look over my shoulder from like the start of writing an offer. And I've done this a million times and I still wouldn't let them do it.
I don't think I want to.
It's just not the vibe. It just isn't the vibe, because then they're going to be asking you, I just would not do it. And like, we want to please our clients and we want to give yeses, especially when we're new, especially when, there's a lot of, say, seasoned agents out there that have all these eggs in their basket, right? So if one egg kind of falls over and it cracks and it breaks, it's okay because they have like these other eggs in there. But sometimes when we're first starting out, we might just have like this one precious egg that we just cannot afford for it to like spill out and break a little bit. And so we want to just like give yeses and do what we're asked to do. But there are certain cases when just come across, you're the one that knows how this is done, not them. So if they're like dictating to you, like, oh, well, I'm going to da-da-da-da and then look over your, no. You're not the professional. I'm the professional. This is how we're going to do it. You're going to give me a break so I can get this offer started, and then we'll get together when I'm ready for you and we can get this offer finished and sent over. All right, how are we doing on time? Okay, we're doing okay. Avoid rookie mistakes. Okay, fun. Where's Zoom at? I feel like I got so many windows open now. Okay, back to this. Nope, not back to that. Gosh darn it. Back to this. All right. So essentials in the area, standard common terms for okay. Avoid rookie mistakes. That's kind of where we left off, I believe. Okay, so now that we've done all the prep work, written the offer. Oh, I didn't get through the offer. That's what we were doing. So I left off at, yes, escrow. So they all put in Kelly. Earnest deposit, it's going to be deposited within 3 days directly with escrow. And then the close date. So this buyer wrote to close 7/23, which was great because that means the property would close towards the end of July. My seller would get their money, but then because of The agreement to occupy, we were going to close on 7/23, but my seller got to occupy the property until, where is it? It was the end of August. So, oh, and they offered free rent. So that was really cool of them. Oh, no. This wasn't until the end of August. That's part of the reason why these guys didn't get it, because they only offered 14 days after closing, which would put them in like the first week of August. And my seller wanted to stay till the end of August, and other offers did include that. Now, they were nice and they did say free rent for those 14 days, but it just wasn't quite enough time. My seller wanted a couple more weeks to stay in the home. But anyway, the close date was 7/23, so that's going to be important. Occupancy and closing. So close date, occupancy. Where's my offer? Okay, continuing on. Okay, property condition at possession. So before possession, seller will remove all of seller's personal property, including trash, except for the items described in sections 2.2, so personal property like the washer, dryer, etc. In addition, seller will broom swept, clean surfaces, shelves, and drawers. That's a perfectly reasonable request. And as a buyer's agent, man, I would certainly ask for at least these things when you're writing your offers, because it's really a bummer when your buyer gets into their new home and they're like, call you up and they're like, this place is disgusting. It really sucks. And it kind of, you could have been the best agent the whole while long and give them this like amazing closing gift. And then they get there and they call you 48 hours later as they're like deep cleaning their brand new house and like, man, what a bummer. And you're like, yep, what a bummer. And it just kind of puts a frown on like the whole process. So highly recommend at least something like this. I mean, you could ask for a deep cleaning or professional cleaning, carpet cleaning, all sorts of stuff. Okay, and so those would be the main, and you can see here we rejected this offer. So those would be the main topics that I'm going to be going over with my buyers and sellers as far as the main points of these offers: the purchase price, the earnest money, what concessions are we asking for, whether that be towards buyer's closing costs or the buyer's agent commission, how are they financing the property, what personal property are they asking for, what are they asking for inspections, do they want a home warranty, any sort of catch-all additional provisions like the final walkthrough, someone asked us to replace a window, escrow, close date, occupancy, property condition of possession, appraisal, and then is there a love letter? Those are the main points when we're reviewing with our buyers and our sellers. I hope I'm sharing my whole screen with everybody, right?
Yeah. Just curious, which one of those buyers got the house?
The one for the most money.
Okay.
I mean, it's funny too, because this was the type of seller that would have sold it to somebody for less money. But at the same time, it just was like so much more money that they just like couldn't not take it. You know what I mean? It just was like kind of, it was so much more money and it was cash. And so there wasn't going to be some lender coming in and being like, the house isn't worth that because it's a cash deal. So yeah, they took the most money, and that's usually what happens. You know, all those things are important, whether there's a home warranty, inspections, and sometimes that might sway your offer coming in for less money over one for more. But one smart thing that these people did, the folks that ultimately won out, was they did what's called an escalation clause. And we had a few escalation clauses. So what an escalation clause is, for those that don't know, is like you come in, you're like, okay, I offer $450,000, but I will pay $5,000 over the next best offer up to a purchase price of $525,000. So that means you wrote an offer at $450, but if someone else came in at $475, because of your escalation clause provision, you'll go up to $480, $5,000 over. If someone came in at $495, I'll go up to $500, $5,000 over. And so that was the smart thing that they did, was they did an escalation clause, but they didn't make it for $1,000 over or $2,000 over. They made it for $5,000 over the next best offer. So it was a great escalation clause. And that's ultimately why they went out, because that's some real money.
A question on that. So with escalation clauses, does the seller's agent have to provide proof of that higher offer coming in to you in writing?
Yes, they do. So when I accepted that offer, we accepted it with its escalation clause, and then I wrote an addendum that my seller signed and we sent back that said, well, I'll tell you exactly what it said. So it was addendum clarification. Purchase price to be $496 because it was 5,000 over the next best offer, which was $491. Verification of I don't know why that's there. Verification of competing offer causing escalation is attached to seller's acceptance because in their and this agent was very clever in the way that they wrote their escalation clause. So I'll go ahead and show that to you as well. This was the escalation clause that we got from the buy side. If a competing offer is considered before this offer expires, buyers are willing to pay $5,000 more than the net competing offer up to a sales price of $511,000. Listing agent to provide full contract of competing offer and proof of funds or pre-qualification letter as written evidence of this escalation clause is exercised. And so, yes, when I sent this back, that we accepted it, and I wrote that addendum clarifying what the purchase price would be. Man, I would have loved if we can got up to 511, but our next best offer was here, this one at 491. So that didn't, basically that meant that these guys had to go up to 496. So I sent that back over, and then we had agreed upon price at 496 with that proof. That answers that question, right?
Yes, it does.
So, and like I said, these escalation clauses were like, I mean, this was every single house a couple of years ago, and things have changed a lot since then. So I was really lucky to get a really great listing that was highly desirable. But I wouldn't expect this on most of our listings. God knows I'm having trouble selling some other ones. Okay. Avoid rookie mistakes. Oh, and I took you through the offer. Okay, great. So what is next?
Just curious, how long, like you had all those documents stored, it looked like on your computer, how long do you keep, if everything's uploaded in Command, do you keep anything on your local computer?
Yes, I do. I retain everything. So most of the stuff that I'm working on, I'll just kind of keep here on the desktop. And like when this property closes, I will just drag this into my Team West folder. So I just forget about it from that point. So like in here, I've got all, you know what I mean? These are things that from the past.
Gotcha.
But yeah, Command will also retain those docs. So we are bound by real estate law to keep all these documents for 6 years. They're in Command, they're not going anywhere. The thing that you really need to make sure that you hang on to, and because of the way technology works nowadays, that should not be difficult, is like your communications. So make sure that you're not doing mass dumps of like your text messages and your emails, because those are also things that we need to hang on to for 6 years. So when you close out a transaction in Command, well, I'll just show you guys. So where's my Safari? You can still see my whole screen, right? Can you see Safari?
Yes.
Yep.
So, oh my gosh, every time. So this isn't really important for this class, but I'm just going to tell you now since it kind of came up. So when you close out a transaction in Command, so what have we got here? Let's do this. And then in your documents, we've got 3 folders. So this is my listing, right? When I listed it, I've got a set of docs that I got to upload. Those are these. When I go under contract, I've got other docs I've got to upload. These are these. When you close it, you have other docs you have to upload. The final closing statement and your communication logs. These are the 2 required docs that our PBs want when we close out a deal. So one thing you can do for these communication logs, that's like all your emails and your texts and any notes that you may have written. You can compile them and put them all into one PDF and drag and drop that here. I don't do that. I think it's a pain in the ass. And since I know that I'm not going to go mass deleting my emails or mass deleting my text messages and they're not going anywhere, oh gosh, how can I find an example of this? I do a PDF and I say something to the effect of, I will retain all my communication logs for the next 6 years, and I sign it and I drag and drop that PDF here. A lot of agents don't do that because they don't want to be responsible for it, and that's fine. So then you just basically need to export all your text to a PDF in your emails and then put them, in one large PDF and drag and drop them here. So that's one thing that also we need to keep for 6 years is our communication log, notes, emails, and texts. So very important.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, let's go to present the offer checklist. Okay, so present the offer checklist. We want to double check all documents, and it says double check, but I would say, like, I don't know, what's 6 or 7 check is what I would say. I hate making mistakes. I hate making mistakes. I also don't like it when I receive documents from another agent and they've made mistakes that I then have to catch and correct. I think that that's embarrassing for them. It's embarrassing for me when, in the rare case that I've sent something over and I missed a checkbox, or even worse case, if something is misspelled. So I would highly recommend 7 checking your documents, especially because when you write these first couple offers and you take these first couple listings, chances are when you interact with your co-op agents, you'll have a couple tells that they're going to know that you're newer. It's just the way that it is. Just by something that you say when they call you, or whatever, that they'll just be a tell that where they can kind of tell you're newer. And so that's one great thing about the productivity coaching program is you have Amara. And so she will look over your offer like nobody's business. And if anything is wrong on it, she's going to give you feedback on that and you're going to have the chance to correct it. And that's before you even send it to your client. And that's also the reason why you're not going to have your client like looking over your shoulder as you're writing this and then have them sign it on the back of that, because you're in productivity coaching. So what you actually are going to do is go back to your office and go back to your home office, write this offer up, send it to Mara to review it to make sure it's diamonds. And then when she gives you the okay, then you can send it to your client for signature. Follow instructions. I'm really not sure what that's in reference to. Yeah, I'm not really sure what that's in reference to. Label all documents clearly. So you can see from my files, everything is labeled very clearly. This is addendum escalation, addendum clarification. This is agreement to occupy. Multiple offer worksheet, letters to the owners, lead paint disclosure, earnest money. That's what that means. Order documents logically. So when my buyers are writing an offer and then I send that over to the listing agent, I'm going to drag the sales agreement in first. I'll put the addendum in second, and then I'll probably drag the pre-approval letter over third, because that just makes sense for it to be in that flow. An email summary. I think this is something that is a great best practice as a buyer's agent when you're sending your buyer's offers over to the listing agent. So an example would be something like this. Hello, listing agent. Here is my buyer's offers to purchase your seller's listing at 123 Any Street. Below is a summary of our offer. And then you're going to just go over the highlights of that. Purchase price, $450,000. Earnest money, $5,000. Inspections, 7 days, and so on and so forth. And just create a little written summary in the body of that email that just kind of summarizes the highlights of that offer. Notify the listing agent. So obviously you're going to send that over via email, that thing. I would go ahead and follow that up with a text as well that says, hey, just to let you know, we just sent an offer over on that listing on 123 Any Street. Let me know if you have any questions. Add all documents to command. So it isn't just offers that we have gotten accepted that our office wants uploaded into command. Our office wants all offers rejected, ignored, uploaded into command. So that is a standard, just FYI. And then consult with your buyer. Just follow up with them. Any questions on any of that? What have we got left? Receive and respond. All right, we're almost there. So a lot of this is from the lens of a listing agent. So now we're going to think of it more like we've got a listing, we've received an offer. Make sure offer is complete. So in these offers, nothing is to be left blank. There is no, well, let me pull up an offer. So, because this is a very common misunderstanding when folks kind of get started in the industry. So just the greater sales agreement here. Okay. So now we're going to be the buyer's agent again. Sorry, I spoke too soon. So now we're the buyer's agent. So we know all of our information. But say, you're writing it to the seller's agent and you're like, oh, well, I don't know their phone number, so I'm going to leave that blank and then they can fill it in. That's not a thing. You can't be like, here's a good section where people think that it's okay to do that a lot, and it's not. Here. Alarm system. Well, I'm not sure if there is one or there's not one. I don't remember from the showing, so I'm just going to leave that blank and then they can fill that in. No. If you don't know, then just say unknown. You have to check something, because when the sell side responds back to us on the buy side, they don't go back into the sales agreement that's already been filled out and make changes to it. That's a big no-no. If we want to make changes to the sales agreement as we've written it on the buy side, that needs to be done on an addendum. So it is important that we fill these sales agreements out as completely and thoroughly as possible. You can't leave the close date blank when you send it over to the sell side. Everything must be filled out. And if we miss something, it's amateurish and you look like you don't know what you're doing because you forgot to put in the close date, or thought that, oh, well, the seller can pick the close date and they'll just fill it in. They have to then do an addendum clarifying the close date, and it looks like a rookie mistake. So make sure that these offers are filled out totally, completely. And trust me, when you send it over to Mara to review, if you've forgotten something important, she will certainly let you know. Okay, confirm receipt of the offer. This is so important. Especially so from let's say an etiquette standpoint, when we're working with our co-op agents, when we've received an offer from the buy side, it's very important that when you see that hit your inbox, all you need to do is send a one-word email back to the buyer's agent, received, or received, thank you. It's proper etiquette. The other thing, it is proper risk management. Say in the case of my Pearl Street, where I had 9 different offers. Folks really wanted that house bad. And I have had it happen before where either buyers or buyers agents start throwing around accusations and maybe calling your principal broker being like, well, I don't even think they presented my offer. Well, if you confirm receipt and let them know that you received it, and then you have your offer go through, your seller go through and sign every single offer. So not only did I have my seller sign the offer that we accepted, I had them reject every single, I had them sign, well, okay, this is a bad example. It's somewhere, I guess not right here. Oops. Sign and reject every single other offer, because the last thing that I wanted was for someone to call Tammy Sue and be like, I don't even think they presented it. And it's totally happened, and it happens all the time. So both from a risk management perspective and an etiquette standpoint, always confirm receipt of documents and offers. Get the offer to the seller in a timely manner. So this can look like several different things. So because this was, the example that I've been giving a lot is this Pearl Street, because it was such a crazy hot thing and we sold it in 48 hours and we got 9 offers in a hurry, I wasn't sending each offer over to my seller to review individually, as I might do in another case. I was like, let me just wait. I will compile everything. I'm going to do a worksheet for you and we'll go over all of them at once. Now, if I've had a property that's been sitting on the market for 3 months and we finally got an offer on it, I'm going to forward it like it's hot over to my seller immediately and be like, let's arrange a time where we can go over it. So what timely manner looks like is going to vary a little bit depending on what the listing looks like. If it's a multiple offer situation, it's like crazy. But typically, if you have had a property and you get an offer in on it, you're going to confirm receipt and then forward it over to your seller immediately and arrange a time to talk about it. Create a summary or create an executive summary. An example of that would be like the multiple offer worksheet that I showed you. Call the buyer's agent if you have any questions, certainly. Call the lender. So if you received an offer that is being financed through conventional and they have a pre-approval letter attached, a good best practice as a listing agent is then call up that lender and just verify that pre-approval letter. And then this is a good risk management as well. Create an outline document to reference when you call the sellers. Like I said before, it has happened more than once that an upset buyer, that their offer wasn't the one that didn't win out, is like, oh, well, you didn't even present my offer, did you? And like they're calling the principal brokers, throwing accusations around. And it's nice to have some contemporaneous proof that you've done your job. Any questions on any of that? Okay, create an offer in Command. Okay, so kind of back to where we started. I will go into Command if we have any extra time, if you guys want, and kind of show you a little bit of that. I write my offers a little bit differently, but I certainly can show a little bit how to write an offer in Command. So anyways, back to kind of where we started. Buyer makes the offer. Seller responds one of three ways: counter, accept, or reject. Obviously, we're still negotiating, probably some phone calls going back and forth between you and the buyer. And here's the reason that you're going to then get on the phone. If your seller wants to counter the buyer's offer, I think that necessitates a phone call. It doesn't make any sense to me in what we do to write a counter on the seller side without even having called the buyer so that they can just get that piece of paper and then not call you and write up another counter and send it back so that you can not call them and write up another counter and send it back. That's really not the way that I do business. I think that we can get this solved usually with one counter offer and figure out that win-win with myself and the buyer's agent or myself and the listing agent, verbally kind of figuring out where our two parties are. Maybe you have to call your seller back once or twice, call them back, but you can hammer out most of the details over the phone so that we're not going back and forth on counters, not communicating with each other. That just doesn't make any sense. And it tends to make anxiety ride a little bit higher and feelings to get a little bit hurt when if the listing agent and the buyer's agent had just talked to each other on the phone, it didn't have to be like that. So that's what I would advise. What else have we got? Okay. Okay, I think that is about it. Let me just make sure that there aren't any notes that Ignite wanted me to say that I didn't say. Okay, so yeah, again, let me just remind of fair housing. You and your client should be focused on the terms of the offer, not the people buying. It's a violation of federal law to discriminate against any of the protected classes: race, color, religion, or creed, national origin, ancestry, sex, disability, and familial status. Be sure to explain the implications of fair housing legislation to your buyers and sellers early in your relationship. Ideally, this is at the appointment and should be discussed before looking at houses with buyers or showing a listing. When presenting offers, it should already be clear that you will not be presenting love letters along with the contract. Again, obviously there's some gray area there. You can run your business however you wish. Oh, seller's net sheet. Okay, this is fun. I do want to definitely cover seller net sheet with you before we go. Since we have about just 10 minutes, that'll be a perfect place to kind of leave off. So a lot of sellers, when they receive these offers, and I know my seller did, they wanted to see, okay, well, how much money is going to be deposited in my bank account when all said and done? And then create an offer in Command. I'll go ahead and read this. So now that you've talked through okay. Be ready for a deep conversation about the offer or offers you've received. Now that you've made sure that there are no questions or surprises passed on to your clients, all the pertinent information about the buyers and their offers. First, you may already have set up a time to talk to your client if you need to send the offer through immediately to meet compliance rules. If not, call them to let you know you have an offer and set up a time to talk or meet. So like I said, here in Oregon, in a timely manner is what we have. So typically that is going to mean just forwarding it off and then arranging a time to meet. Or like I said, if you've got multiple offers, I didn't forward them off as they came in. I compiled them and then we met and we talked. You know your clients best. Will they intend to talk through this in person? Will things make more sense to them that way? If not, you can schedule a Zoom or a phone call. When you meet, be sure to have a location free of distractions, a good cell signal or Wi-Fi, and share the document to be looked at. Be sure you and your client are looking at this on large screens, not your phones. Always keep the tone of the conversation polite. Do not criticize the buyers, the agent, or the offer. Explain the offer. At this point, you've already talked through the generalities of an offer, and if you haven't, be sure they understand the entire contract, not just the specifics. If the house has been on the market for a while, or if they did not price it in your recommended range before, be sure you have your CMA ready along with the current days on market and the number of showings to create context for the offer. So what that's really saying is, like, say you had a listing that's been on the market quite some time, the seller's priced it a bit higher than you were thinking that they should price it based on your CMA, and you've received a lowball offer. What might help your seller not be so offended in receiving that lowball offer is being like, well, we've been on the market 96 days. We've only actually had one showing in the last 60 days. And if you remember, I had your CMA here and you wanted to price it here. So this offer might not be as low as you might be thinking. Maybe that might help them take some of the emotion out of it and not be so offended by a lowball offer. So I think that's really good advice.
Question.
Yes.
How often or how common is it when you get offers on your listing that the seller will say, well, which one do you think I should pick?
I mean, all the time.
Okay.
All the time. To answer that question, I would go back to their motivation. You know what I mean? For some folks, it's time, and like time is really, really huge, maybe even like outweighing money to agree. For others, it's just purely money and time is of no importance. And then for others, it's a combination of the two. And there might be other factors at play too, but you're just going to help your seller go back to their motivation so that they can pick the offer that they think has the best terms. It isn't just always the price. There are other factors.
And you're not out of your wheelhouse to say, well, if you look at this or this, maybe this one's better. Like, that's not giving advice that's outside of your scope.
I don't think so.
Okay. I didn't know if legally you couldn't say, oh, I would probably take this one because that could blow back on you somehow if they.
What I would phrase it differently. So what I would say is like, well, this one has a lot going for it. It certainly is the highest offer price wise, but then looking at this one and this one, they're a little bit lower, but they have these two things really going for it when they have like an appraisal waiver, and this one doesn't even want to have inspections. Da 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 da. So that's something that you might consider. And then this one over here, it's a cash offer. It's a little bit less than the others, but they want to close in a week. And I know how important getting this done very quickly is to you. So they're going to pick the offer ultimately that they think is best. So I wouldn't say, well, I think you should take this one, but I certainly would be like, this one has a lot going for it, and I would consider it. Ultimately, they're going to pick, you know?
Sure. It's all how you phrase it.
So there's a few things more that they want me to say, and I will fit in this net sheet, and it'll be super quick, I promise. As a listing agent, once you presented your offer, it's your turn to consult the seller and respond to the offer. You need to help your client come to a decision about how they would like to proceed. You explain the positives and the negatives of the offer and various responses, and then it's their turn to make the decision. Remember, there are 3 ways to respond to the offer. You can counter the offer to begin the negotiation process, accept it as is, or reject it completely. Accept the offer. If the offer is reasonable, they may decide to accept it. Remind them that once they accept this offer, they are under contract to that buyer and that buyer alone. Counter the offer. Consult with your client to determine a reasonable counteroffer. Following the rules of your market, write the counteroffer on the correct form and have the seller sign it. Remember, a counteroffer is a rejection of an initial offer. Remember, there are risks to haggling over $500 or even $5,000, and that is true. Emotions run high. I mean, you know, some folks are very passionate. Some folks can kind of retain some objectivity. And so, you know, certainly I've had buyers that wrote an offer on a place and then the seller countered with something that I would thought was a reasonable counter, but they were like, absolutely not. We'll find another place, sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, there is a risk to sellers writing a counter. I think especially in this market that we find ourselves in now, where buyers do have a bit more power. I mean, you know, a couple of years ago, sellers could ask for whatever they wanted, and the buyer would be like, absolutely yes. Not really the case anymore. If the offer is unreasonable, the seller can reject it. It's up to the seller if they would like if they would like to offer the buyer the chance to submit a new offer. Remember, you can only tell the other parties what your seller has instructed you to disclose. For example, if the sellers reject an offer and are happy for you to tell the buyer's agent the terms that they would accept, you can do that. You cannot tell the buyer's agent that information unless your seller gives you permission. And that makes sense, right? Like, you don't want to send that rejection over and be like, but by the way, if you had written it like this and this and this, my seller probably would have accepted. You're giving up way too much information there and all your negotiating power. But of course, if your seller is like, hey, why don't you kind of give them some breadcrumbs here and like lead them, you know, I'm happy to look at it again, then you absolutely can do that. You're under instructions from your boss, the seller. Multiple offer situations. The same goes for a multiple offer situation. Perhaps the seller likes one offer best and it comes with a closing date that is sooner than they would like. You can go to the buyer's agent and consult to see if the buyers would be willing to do a longer close. If so, the agent can either alter their offer or go into a counter offer if they know their offer will be accepted. Of course, in a multiple offer situation, you can also call for highest and best from all offers. So highest and best comes with its disadvantages as well, because when you call for highest and best, that kind of throws out all escalation clauses. And I would say could ultimately end up costing your seller money. And so in those situations, I mean, we really don't have the time to get in the weeds on that, especially since multiple offer situations aren't that common at the moment. But yeah, I would just, if you have a listing and you're getting multiple offers, I would just call Mara and be like, so do I want to do highest and best on this or just let everything come in as they are with their escalation clauses? And she'll probably advise escalation clauses because it's probably likely to get your seller the most money. It's cleaner to do highest and best because everybody's just sending in their absolute offer with no escalation clauses. It's a little less confusing for all parties involved. But like I said, ultimately probably will cost your seller a little bit of money in the end. Discuss the general parameters for calling for highest and best offers in your market. Is the call limited to current offers? Is it broadcast in the MLS? Are there standard timelines for such a call? Do you require an offer extension? All offers that would be resubmitted, new terms, blah, blah, blah. So it's a mess. Multiple offers. It's a lot. Anything else? As with any deal you do as a new agent, you should be consulting your broker or coach at each step to make sure you're compliant with all rules and regulations for your market and market center and are detailing the full array of options available to your client. Okay, I think that brings us to the end. Yes. Okay, I'm going to get out of this because I told you we're going to go through a net sheet for sellers, and I do want to show that really quickly. I got to get rid of all these windows. Goodbye. I've got 3 minutes. So Western Title has a fantastic net sheet. Oh, I probably shouldn't have. Let's see. Let's go. And so whether you're in a multiple offer situation or receive a single offer, one question that your seller is very likely to have once they have an offer on the table is, well, how much is going to be deposited in my bank account when this is all said and done? So it's going to be prepared by you. And Keller Williams. So I'm here in Lane County, so that's the county I'm going to choose. And we're in the Eugene branch. So you're going to put in the estimated close date. And the reason why the estimated close date is so important is because of the way our tax years work here in Oregon. Hopefully remember from real estate school that the tax year runs from July 1 to June 30 on the other side. So the tax year actually here in Oregon just started. Now these taxes aren't due or payable yet. In fact, I'm not even sure that they're a lien yet, but the tax year has just begun here in Oregon. So the prorates, like as in the amount that the buyers and sellers will be responsible for when they prorate everything out at closing is going to be really important depending on what that close date is. So technically, if we closed a house right now today, the property taxes for the 2025 property tax year that the seller is going to owe is just 9 days. And the buyer is going to owe the other 356 days or whatever. Because that's the way our tax years work here. So let's just say, for instance, we're closing on, then, okay, property address. So escrow fee, unless otherwise stated in the contract, escrow fees are always split 50-50. And I haven't reviewed a contract in a long time that was written in there like seller to pay all escrow fees or buyer to pay all escrow fees. Everything I've seen over all my years, honestly, was a 50-50 split. You would have to specifically write it in that it was going to be different. So 99.9% of the time, that's what you're going to see. Okay, property taxes. You can get this information from MLS. You can get it from the county records. Let's just say that the property taxes are $3,500 a year. Because it is only July 31st and the property taxes could not possibly be paid at this point, we know that they are unpaid. Oh, do not payable, actually, is what we want. I'm not doing a buyer statement, so it doesn't really matter on that. Seller estimate. So put in my seller's name, let's just say Smith. And Doe is the buyer. So our purchase price, 450,000. So payoff, typically this is going to be B of A mortgage. Let's say they owe 371,683 left on their mortgage. Maybe it isn't uncommon for folks to do like a DeBello roof and have that become like a lien on their property that will have to be paid off during the sale of it. A lot of elderly folks, I hate to say fall into that trap, but might have something like that. So let's just say roof, and they still owe 9,000 on that or something. So commission due at settlement. So let's say I, as the listing agent, charged 2.5 bananas, and the buyer's agent negotiated 2.5 bananas as their commission. So that's 5% of the sales price for agent commissions. So here, it's going to take care of the property taxes for us. So as I mentioned, the seller is only going to owe from July 1st to July 31st when they change possession. So they didn't owe a ton of the property taxes at the settlement, only $287. The buyer is going to be on the hook for the rest of that because they're the one occupying the property for the rest of that tax year. Then it's going to put the escrow charges in here that Western Title will be charging, the recording fee. And then were there any seller contributions towards closing costs? Sure. I mean, let's say the seller contributed $12,500 towards the buyer's rate buy down, because that's pretty common nowadays. So now we can see with these numbers that we've got, that purchase price, when they make their payoff and they pay off that other thing that's attached to the mortgage, they pay the realtors, they pay the escrow fees, and they covered some of the buyer's closing costs, that they're going to deposit $31,000 into our seller's bank account when all said and done. And it comes up with a pretty little statement that looks very much like the final settlement statement you will see at the close of escrow for your seller.
Is this common with escrow or title companies? So if we wanted to find one local, it would have probably the more likely costs or the fees.
So yes, the fees will vary escrow company to escrow company. Yes, you're absolutely right. I think Western's somewhere in the middle.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you can pay more and you can pay less. So yeah, you will, if you know you're going through First American, don't use Westerns because your numbers here won't be correct. It'll be close, but yeah, not correct. Any other questions? All right, well, I know that was a lot. I had so much fun, guys, with that. Like I said, Mara's nice enough to let me do the ones that I really like to do. So I really enjoyed having these couple hours with you guys. I will be back on tomorrow to talk about vacant land, new construction, and condos. So if you want to hear me yammer on for another 2 hours, I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. That was really
You.
helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.